So Trump got raided by the feds. What do you think of this?
I think it's a very dangerous move, if I'm being honest, because I don't think there's anybody who can look at this and not see it as political.
Yes.
I don't understand how anyone can look at this and go, this isn't a Democrat administration trying to discredit a former president. They're using as many smears as possible. And I'm going to make this clear. I don't like Trump. I'm not a fan of Trump. I think he's very divisive. I think actually in many ways he's the last thing America needs. What we need is somebody who is going to be able to help to unify the country, take the pressure out of the country, just cool things down a bit. I don't think that Trump is that person. But when you come along and you start to do these things to a former president, it looks like they don't have any ideas. They don't have any ideas to solve the problems in the country. And as a result, what are they going to do? They're going to go and smear a former president to make him unelectable because they see him as their biggest threat.
Well, it's very South American, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
But
I
it
can
is,
do
isn't
that
it?
because I'm racist. No, because I'm half Latin American, so it's fine.
But this is the sort of thing that happens in Latin American countries. And this is actually a part of the peaceful transfer of power. It's knowing that the new administration isn't going to persecute the old administration. That's a key part of the peaceful transfer of power. And like you say, it looks overtly political. It looks very much banana republic stuff. But before we get into this, if you want to support us, go over to lotus.com, sign up for a $5 a month, and go and watch our latest Epochs, which is on King Canute, who definitely persecuted his political opposition. But it's really good, actually, because King Canute's a fascinating, probably the greatest Viking to have ever lived.
Do you know that entire part of history and the Anglo-Saxons? I went to where was the old English capital? I did a gig
Winchester?
there. Winchester. Have you been to Winchester Cathedral?
I don't think I have, actually.
I would really recommend it to people watching. If you're interested in Anglo-Saxon history, I know it's fascinating because they tell the story right the way through all the Anglo-Saxons, all the kings. How Winchester became the capital. It's fascinating.
Yeah, and we've been doing a long series on the Anglo-Saxon before the Norman Conquest. Yeah. Because, like you say, it's just really fascinating stuff. Yeah. And it's actually kind of hard to find.
It is. Like, we're not taught about it in school at all.
No, and it's really noble as well. There's a lot going on, and I really enjoy it. So go and check out that. Anyway, we've got to get back to it. So I think that this is just a further consequence of the January the 6th hearings, in which Attorney General Merrick Garland made a really interesting observation. Now, I don't know about you, but this, to me, just seems like a trumped-up show trial. You know, it's just... I mean, I was watching all of the events that happened on January the 6th, obviously, because it was a major event, and Trump definitely said, march peacefully and patriotically to make your voices heard, and then he tweeted out multiple times, go home, you shouldn't be in the Capitol.
Also, as well, Trump does need to take a modicum of responsibility because the rhetoric before that was inflammatory. Stop the steal, and it's
he did, but when it comes down to it, he did say peacefully and patriotically, and he did tell people to go home. And I think that if you were going to plan a coup,
it wasn't a coup, and anyone who says it's a coup is ridiculous and doesn't understand the meaning of the word coup.
Exactly, you would have brought some guns.
Yeah,
I mean, the fact that you're in America and they didn't bring guns, like that's pretty shocking.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Like, Republicans didn't bring guns somewhere. Oh, they're committing a coup. No, that was not a coup. But anyway, so this is what they're trying to pin on Trump. And you are right. You know, Trump was being very incendiary in his rhetoric. There's no doubt that he was. But when the time came, he, stepped back from the ledge. And so, okay, fine, that's fine. But anyway, so Merrick Garland said that he's concerned that prosecuting the de facto leader of the Republican Party would politicize the Justice Department in the same way Trump himself often did during his presidency. So yeah, well, that's a good reason not to do this, in fact, because like we just said, this is a part of the peaceful transfer of power, to make sure that you don't turn into a banana republic where people try and seize power merely to persecute their political enemies. Well, looks like it's happening now, actually, because Trump got raided by the feds, and that's not good, right? Feds probably shouldn't be raiding the private property of ex-presidents.
No.
Don't know why I have to say that.
No, it's an antagonistic gesture.
Yeah.
It's an antagonistic gesture.
Without warning as well.
My worry is we have got very severe problems in America, and what happens in America dictates what happens throughout the rest of the world.
Yes.
They are the leader of the Western world. And when you have politicians in power who don't appear, and I think that's a very kind way of putting it, I'm going to be honest, to have the solutions to problems within the country, that worries not only Americans, it worries the rest of us. Because without America, we're all screwed.
And there's a great meme I've seen going around, which is a guy holding a sign saying, "This is America. If things go sideways here, no one's coming to save us."
Yeah, and it's true.
And isn't that just the best? It's
Yeah.
like that really puts the nail on the head for me. So there's nowhere else where you're going to get freedom. You know, like, sorry, we're not free in Britain. Like, you're not free in Canada or Australia or New Zealand. No one's coming to save you, America. So you've got to figure this out.
What? But are you saying Liz Truss isn't going to save America, mate?
Like, okay, the Democrats are in exactly the position the Conservatives are in. They've got a popular leader. Oh, well, we'll get rid of him. Okay, well, who are you going to have? Oh, God. So it'll be the American version of Liz Truss that takes over after Biden. Yeah, no, everything's terrible, basically.
Yeah.
But anyway, so moving on. So, yeah, the FBI searched Trump's Mar-a-Lago home to find classified material, they claim. Because Trump earlier this year had to return 15 boxes of documents that were, quote, improperly taken from the White House, the National Archives, and the Record Administration. It's like, sure, but did that require an FBI's unannounced raid to do that? That seems like a vulgar display of power, doesn't it? You know, you could have probably messaged him and said, "Mr. President, we need that back.
Yeah.
We're going to have to get that back, or legal proceedings will be taken against you," or something like that. No, you instead sent the FBI.
Well, this is it. You know, there are ways to do this.
Yeah,
without.
this isn't it.
No, it's not it. It's inflammatory. It's sending a statement. It's done purely to discredit Trump. And the reality is if the country wasn't in the state it was, if the Democrat Party wasn't in the state it was, if problems hadn't been allowed to fester for as long as they were, if working class people didn't feel as desperate as they did, if the divide between rich and poor wasn't as huge as it is in America, you wouldn't have Trump.
Yeah.
And this problem wouldn't occur.
But honestly, I put a lot of the blame on the sort of patrician elites in the coasts, where in Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, where they just down their noses. They can't stand the people in the middle of the country. They can't stand them.
And we have the same problem in this country.
We absolutely do. People outside of London hate London.
Yeah, and
for good reason.
And people in London hate the rest of the country, and they talk about equality, blah blah blah, diversity, whatever. All these little buzzwords that they use, but they openly sneer at working class people.
Yeah,
and we've seen it with the Democrat politicians, the Labour politicians in this country have abandoned the working classes, and the political situation is now what it is, largely as a result of them.
Yeah, I think so. I really think that's accurate. But anyway, so going on to the next one, we, again, just more information, because this all happened very, very recently. So two sources familiar with the matter have told Axios here that it was related to documents that Trump took from the White House that may have been classified. We don't know if they are. We don't know if they've actually got any documents from him at this point. The purpose of the raid was, they said, because the National Archives wanted to corroborate whether or not Trump had any documents. So, right, and that had to be done by force, did it? And apparently the FBI cannot issue a search warrant without approval from a federal judge. That means the Justice Department, which is engaged in multiple investigations of Trump and his allies, has probable cause that a crime was committed and evidence exists at Mar-a-Lago. Maybe, but again, it looks really political. Yeah. Really, really political.
It does. And I don't think, and I can't believe I'm saying this about politicians who are all Ivy League educated, whatever, You just go, did you not think that this was going to be an inflammatory, seen as an inflammatory attack? And did you not think that this was only going to aid the division in this country?
Yeah. I mean, imagine if Trump had raided Obama.
Yeah.
Like, good God. Like, everyone would be like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And the thing is as well, right? Okay, let's say that Trump comes back in 2024 on this big wave of resentment against what the Democrats have done and how they've screwed the economy and how they've treated their opposition, and wins a tremendous victory. And Trump's got now, because the Democrats have got, the House, the Senate, and the presidency. What if Trump gets those? Okay, well, what are you going to be like? Oh, well, don't weaponize the institutions against us. Why the hell shouldn't I? You did this to me. And this is the downward spiral into Banana Republic.
But you see, this is why I think that it would be better if they had a Republican Party without Trump, because I don't think Trump actually has the personality to be magnanimous. I don't think he's going to go in and go, you know what? Let's call it a second.
That's a great point.
Let's call it a second. Things are getting really nasty, but for the sake of America, let's just take
Yeah.
a moment, let's all breathe, and let's try and move forward together as a nation.
Yeah,
He's not going to do that.
No, because you're going to have Steve Bannon in the background going, crush them.
Yeah.
You know, but the thing is, again, like I have real trouble being like, yeah, that's not justified. It is justified. These people are scum.
But
Like, look at what they're doing. you
right,
know?
but the problem is if you do that,
You make things worse.
you make things worse. And this isn't about Trump. This isn't about the Democrats. This is about America. This is about ordinary people who, this isn't their fault that the elites have gone nuts.
Yeah.
This isn't their fault that, you know, the electoral system doesn't work for them.
No, and the elites going nuts, I think, is a real problem here, because it seems to me that the elites basically hate their own countries at this point.
Yeah, they do hate their own country.
That seems to be like the mindset of and they're all left-wing elites. In London or in the coastal cities, it's the left-wing elites that just hate their countries.
You see, I have a problem with the term being left-wing, when people go left-wing elites. To me, they're not left-wing.
Oh, right.
They're not left-wing, because if you look at, like, true...
Can we say globalists then?
Yeah, I would say progressives, if I'm being honest.
Okay.
Because to me, progressivism and being left-wing are two completely different things. I think in many ways, I'm actually quite left-wing when it comes to economics. I believe that things need to be done. We need a stronger taxation system to tax big multinational corporations like Google, like Amazon, who get away with not paying their fair share.
But this seems to be tapping into the sort of Scrutonian kind of conservatism, where it's like, well, look, the purpose of the people at the top is to actually look after the people at the bottom.
Yeah.
And so we shouldn't allow like Russian oligarchs to be able to buy up our capital city. We shouldn't allow international corporations to exploit our working class.
Exactly. I believe in all these things, and I think they're very important, because what happens if you continue to have this huge gap between rich and poor, society worsens.
Oh, yeah.
It does, and the stats and the data bear that out. So I think there's a lot of people, who should be paying more tax in order to make society better for everybody. But these people, they're not left-wing. They're not. They are progressive. They're globalists. It's a different thing entirely.
We'll call them the progressives for the sake of argument then. But I think it's because they hate their own countries. They've come to despise them. They've come to loathe the average person in these countries. And I think that's untenable. I mean, you're ruling over a bunch of people you hate, and like you say, you sneer at, you're contemptible of. There's something wrong with you at that point, not those people. But anyway, so this obviously means that they think that Trump has done something wrong by taking documents to Mar-a-Lago. But the thing is, apparently federal law bars the removal of classified documents to unauthorized locations, but it is possible that Trump could argue that as president, he was the ultimate declassification authority. And so Trump could say, well, I declassified them. That's why I took them. And so essentially, he might have a legal risk, but he might have an out. Just so. So anyway, let's get to Trump's statement on it, because that's what we all want to hear, isn't it?
Oh my word! What did he say?
Oh, it's a regular Trumpism.
Of course it is.
But he's not wrong, right? These are dark times for our nation, as my beautiful home, Mar-a-Lago on Palm Beach, is currently under siege, raided and occupied by a large group of FBI agents. Nothing like this has ever happened to a president of the United States before. After working and cooperating with the relevant government agencies, this unannounced raid on my home was not necessary or appropriate. Is he wrong?
I don't agree. I'm in agreement. I'm in agreement with Trump. There you go. Let's get me cancelled again from the comedy industry.
He just writes in a really funny way.
Yeah, he does. Look, this is a problem with Trump. He is very funny.
Yeah, he is.
He is funny. You can't deny that.
Yeah.
You can't deny it.
Yeah.
Like there's people who go like, they have legitimate criticisms, as I do of Trump. But you've got to be fair. He is funny. I think part of the reasons comedians hate him so much is because he's funnier than them. Yeah,
look at his stand-up, basically. When he's doing his rallies and he's got 50,000 people there. He's just riffing.
Yeah.
He's just riffing on whatever's going on, whatever's on his mind. And it's hilarious. And it's like, you wish you were that good.
Yeah, and look, the thing is with comedians by their natures are disruptors. That's what they do. They come in and they disrupt. They take an idea and they subvert it. And if you look at Trump, particularly when it came to, the primaries, that's what he did.
Yeah.
He came in and he disrupted. And what he did beautifully, he gave nicknames to all the different candidates.
So aggressive with it.
Yeah. So there was, there was, what was the one for Marco Rubio?
Oh, Little Marco.
Little Marco.
Yeah.
And immediately, when that came in, that's all you could think of. Oh, look, there's Little Marco.
Yeah.
So,
Lion Ted.
Yeah.
He had them all. It was really great.
Yeah. And that's why he was so effective, because he is, at heart, a stand-up comedian. Which is why he should be nowhere fucking near the levers of power. You don't give any amount of power to a comedian.
But he did a good job. Like you can't deny he did actually do a good job.
He did. There was a lot of good that he did, particularly with his overseas policy.
And the economic policy, I thought was good.
I mean, there is an argument that actually what he did is he stored up a lot of problems for the future when it comes to the debt situation in America. But my worry was he's too divisive.
It's too divisive. On one side, we've got success and glory, and on the other side, we have Democrats.
But I mean that he sent people mad.
Yeah, he did. That is a genuinely legitimate concern. He did send them mad.
He sent people mad. Even people who were like super rational and logical, like the Sam Harrises of this world, who was like, listen to my app.
Yeah.
You know, let's all breathe. And then Trump came, he went, nah.
I know. And I love Sam Harris. I think he's a worthwhile voice to have in any public debate. And Sam,
a lovely man, by the way. We're getting him on the show. The episode's coming out in a couple of weeks. We interviewed him. Yeah. And he's brilliant. What a sweetheart, great guy.
But his approach to Trump was just really short-sighted, I felt.
Yeah.
And it's like, look, you got to take Trump as, like you say, like the symptom of the problem.
Yep, absolutely.
Don't take Trump as like, on his word. Take him as a kind of phenomenon that's happened. But anyway, so let's get back to the latest Trumpism. So he says it is prosecutorial misconduct, which I'm amazed he could spell, the weaponization of the justice system, an attack by radical left Democrats who don't want me to run for president in 2024, especially based on recent polls, and who likewise will do anything to stop Republicans and conservatives in the upcoming midterm elections. To be honest with you, I think he's right. Because Trump's polling is remarkably good at the moment, because obviously people are like, wow, it wasn't like this under Trump. And that's a strong argument. And it does seem to be a weaponization of the justice system. And he says such an assault could have only taken place in broken third world countries. He's not wrong. And then he gets a bit more Trumpy. Sadly, America has now become one of those countries, corrupt at a level not seen before. They even broke into my safe. What is the difference between this and Watergate, where the operatives broke into the DNC? Here in reverse, the Democrats broke into the home of the 45th president of the United States. And he goes on, obviously, and mentions that, look, Hillary Clinton didn't get broken into after she had confidential emails that she had acid washed and deleted after being subpoenaed by Congress. She didn't get anything.
Yeah.
And so it's so obviously partisan. It's so obviously one-sided.
Of course it is.
It's genuinely a tragedy. And like you say, it's driven them mad. It's driven them mad.
Trump sent them all nuts. He just did. Like when we were on Joe Rogan, Rogan made a great point. He said he drove them so nuts that they abandoned the rule book and they were willing to break the rules to get rid of him, because that's how insane he sent them. Yeah.
That is exactly right. Because they had nothing to compromise with him on. Like, he was like, no, I'm pro-America and you're anti-America, so, and it's like, okay, well, of course they're going to go nuts.
But in 2019, I went to a comedy and economics festival, which called Kill Economics in Ireland, which is actually very good. And they had all these very famous economists from around the world coming to discuss what was going on in the world, blah, blah, blah. And these were all liberal, left, apart from a couple economists, and they were talking about America. And they were saying, well, look, this is just managed decline. This is what America is in now. We have to accept this, blah, 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 blah.
I hate this attitude.
And here's the thing. You have someone coming in going, you know what? We're going to make America great again.
Yeah.
Now, to an ordinary layman who is not aware of everything going on in the world.
Who are you going to believe?
And what's a more enticing message? Is that of like, well...
managed decline, can I sell you on it? No.
Yeah.
No, you can't.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Anyway, so let's carry on with the politicization of America's institutions. You may remember Project Veritas got raided.
We interviewed him on the show, James O'Keefe.
Yeah, we interviewed him as well.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not saying that James O'Keefe is not like a conservative activist, but he is also... I
mean, that's a fair way of putting it, yeah.
Well, he is.
Absolutely.
Which I'm not saying he's not that, but they can have Democrat activists who do the same thing as Project Veritas.
Of course they can.
There's nothing wrong with them doing that. In fact, it would be good to have both sides doing it to each other. So the public who aren't engaged in either of those parties, get to see it all. But you don't see it from the other side, and it makes you wonder why, really, doesn't it? But the point is, there was a comment from the Committee to Protect Journalists who said this. And they were like, look, the FBI's recent raids on the organization's founder and his associates represents concerning overreach by law enforcement. This was only last November. This is less than a year ago. And so it's like, look, the FBI did this to them, did it to Trump. Who's next? Where can they go from here?
And again, it's the point. Project Veritas wouldn't exist if people had faith in mainstream media outlets.
If the media did their job.
If the media did their job, but it's not even if the media did their job. If the media weren't as overtly biased, if you knew that what you were reading in the media was fair and honest and accurate.
Yeah, God, can you even imagine?
But it isn't. And we all know they're lying to us. The mask has slipped. We don't believe them anymore. We know that they have lied to us for years. And as a result, you get people. And look, we interviewed James. Look, James, I believe, I liked him when I met him, but he's partisan. Let's just say it. He is partisan. But James wouldn't exist if you didn't have a media that wasn't that wasn't at least trying.
Yeah.
Because we're all biased. Let's be fair.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with having a bias. The problem is when you're not fair.
Yeah, when you're not fair and you don't actually, when your own side have done something wrong, when you ignore it, or what you do is you misrepresent. That's when people go, you know what? I don't want any part of this. It's why the BBC in our country is going down the toilet because people know they're being spun a narrative.
Yep. But anyway, let's skip to Ron DeSantis' statement on this, because you can see people protesting and counter-protesting and things like this. So this is very clearly obviously a partisan. I mean, look at the CNN is fake news. You don't get to this point if you don't have a long history of lying to people.
Of course.
I mean, CNN is just probably the worst culprit for it as well. But anyway, so Ron DeSantis put up a statement saying, the raid of Mar-a-Lago is another escalation in the weaponization of federal agencies against the regime's political opponents, while people like Hunter Biden get treated with kid gloves. Now the regime is getting another $87K for IRS agents to wield against its adversaries, Banana Republic. I mean, the Hunter Biden thing, if it wasn't so obvious, I mean, I take it you've followed what's happened with Hunter Biden.
So, are we talking about Twitter suppressing the Hunter Biden story, or is it
and the stuff that's come off the laptop? It's just,
of course.
He is an absolute train wreck. And then the connections that go from Joe Biden to Hunter Biden to this Chinese company whose name escapes me to taking 10% for the big guys. Like, look, it looks like this family has been getting money from the Chinese Communist Party.
Yes,
and so and like you say, Twitter suppresses this, the media suppresses this, the IRS doesn't have anything to say about it. Where's that 10 million coming from, whatever? The FBI have got nothing to say about it. And it's like, look, in a normal world, that guy would be in jail.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he needs to be in jail for his own good because he needs help.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
He needs help.
Yeah.
He's an addict who is out of control.
Yeah. Ted Cruz put out a statement about this as well. And again, these are right-wing political politicians, but like they're not wrong when they say this. The FBI raiding Donald Trump is unprecedented. It's corrupt and abuse of power. What Nixon tried to do, Biden has now implemented. The Biden admin has fully weaponized the Department of Justice and FBI to target their political enemies. With 87,000 new IRS agents, they're coming for you too. Congress must demand answers. We need hearings. We need subpoenas. Dems in charge will refuse, but the American people deserve to know why Biden is using the FBI as his political enforcers. Tin pot dictators do that. That's not how America works. His same Department of Justice ignored Hunter Biden, who filmed himself committing multiple felonies, ignored Hillary Clinton, largely ignored BLM and Antifa rioters, ignored dangerous protesters outside justice homes, and ignored Epstein's clients. Why?
But this is the problem as well with people who pick a team. And this is when people go to me, are you right, are you left, or whatever else? And I have some opinions that are left, and I have some opinions that are on the right. Because the moment you pick a team, this starts to happen.
Yep.
You start to say about your own team, oh, that doesn't matter. Yep. Let's just look at that. And you stop being fair, and you stop being honest, and people look at you, and they know that you have no integrity, and they start to lose faith in you, and they start to lose faith in the party and the political system. The politicians we all admire are people like Robin Cook, who saw what happened with Iraq and went, I want no part of this, I'm resigning. That's why people liked Corbyn. That's why he nearly won power in 2017, because they knew that he had integrity. 2019, he shut his mouth, even though he voted for Brexit, and we all know he voted for Brexit, and he shut his mouth about it. He was like, let's do a second referendum, and the entire country went, no, fuck you.
Yeah, I mean,
because you're being complete. You're lying.
Like I morally disagree with Corbyn on almost everything, but at least I respected that he stuck by his guns.
Absolutely.
And then when it came to Brexit, I was just like, Jeremy, I don't even have that respect for you now.
Yeah.
I know you voted for Brexit. I know you've been going on about Brexit. You sounded like Nigel Farage 20 years ago. You know,
He was a hardline Eurosceptic,
I know.
as was all the left wing of
Yeah.
the Labour Party.
Yeah.
There is a very coherent argument that you can make that Brexit is a left-wing policy. They're all Eurosceptics.
Absolutely. And the fact that Jeremy Corbyn bent the knee on it, I was just like, right, okay, I don't even respect your integrity now, Jeremy.
Yeah.
You know, so anyway.
Having said that, he was against vaccine passports, so as was
But everyone should have been.
I know, I'm in agreement with you, but the Conservatives weren't. They loved it.
I know.
They were like, what? We get more laws? Put them in.
I know. It's just awful. Anyway, let's move on.
Thanks for watching this segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters. If you enjoyed that and want more, you can subscribe and become a premium member on our website, where you can access our exclusive content, including the premium live hangouts we've recently done this one, hangout number 17, Our Cyberpunk Dystopia, where Carl and Callum discuss the cyberpunk dystopia we are falling into. If you're interested in following Callum on social media, you can follow him on Getter @Callum. Thank you and goodbye.